This footage will be covering two very special days diving out of Tyra on the Coromandel's east coast. Fantastic inshore visibility and sublime topwater conditions made for a memorable weekend. As the water cools down at this time of year, we turn our attention away from kingfish and other schooling pelagics, instead focusing on the reef's demersal species. Trevally don't have camouflage in the traditional sense, but are beautifully adapted to reflect light. This allows them to very effectively hide themselves just out of sight because their scales reflect the colour of the water around them. In this clip I wait quite a while just to get that good pass from the trevally and make sure I can make a really good clean shot on them. Here I can see the trevally about to come around again, so I get ready with my gun. Having it next to this bit of kelp can obscure it a little bit and just get them that little bit closer. Nice spine shot on this fish, incapacitating it, making it really easy from here on out. So I bring it to the surface, bleed it and get in the float. John Dory are the masters of camouflage, moving into the shallows to feed on baitfish as the year draws on. They are generally quite common, but their cunning and elusive nature makes them difficult to distinguish from their surroundings. This one meets its fate and made for some brilliant dinner. Epic table fish. After swimming around for a while, I find a group of snapper on the bottom feeding on something. I'm swimming over to them slowly, trying not to spook them. Quite a few really good fish go out of there, but this one stays. I managed to get over the top, make a dive on him, shoot him from quite a way away, and the spear goes in, but just barely. It's only just hanging onto him. I end up having to make another dive on the snapper, just trying not to put too much pressure on the line, making sure that shot doesn't come out. I go for a tail grab here, it doesn't quite work out. I end up sort of having to wrestle this fish and bring it into my body and sort of hug it and swim it to the surface. Shows how much I love fish, I guess. Always nice to get a snapper, as they're one of the hardest species to shoot, so it's always real rewarding to shoot one. Here you can see that shot is just hanging on in the snapper's head, didn't even make it through to the flopper. So real lucky to have landed this one. Don't take long shots. Here's what the snapper are feeding on, and there's more remnants of whatever this was strewn about. However, feeding on this, I managed to find quite a nice blue cod. Blue cod aren't something we get a lot in the Coromandel. I've only ever really seen a few of them, and most of the ones you see will be small. Like, it's quite rare to actually see a good size one. Blue cod are also, however, renowned for their eating quality, so I was planning on taking this one home with me. Good size, and yeah, just a nice opportunity to have given to me. Here we have the head of what was a marlin. I've ended up finding a marlin frame in this area. Interesting to see, however, and there were quite a lot of fish around. It makes you wonder how big this marlin would have been intact. I stick around for a little while longer, but eventually just decide to leave. The first thing that you'll probably notice is the goatfish hanging about in this area. I'd actually seen them from the surface and made a dive here in hopes of seeing a John Dory, and sure enough, hanging about close by is a John Dory. They have quite a narrow profile when you view them front on, and it's only when they turn do you see the full size of them. Just here the John Dory turns and I make a shot, and then proceed to swim up to the surface. John Dory are often perceived as one of the deeper weedline fish, but in my experience I've seen them very shallow. In fact, most times I probably have seen them in water shallower than 10 metres. That concludes the diving for day one. I got out again tomorrow to much the same conditions and had some pretty successful diving. Shortly after getting in the water, I'm swimming out, and pretty much the first set of rocks off the beach I noticed a distinctive shape on the sand. So I make a dive, and here we have quite a nice sized John Dory. Best one I'd seen these past 2 days. Take a shot, a little bit lower than I would have liked, but still a good holding shot. Managed to get the mono after 3 tries and swim this to the surface. John Dory are easily one of the best eating fish you can get. Just beautiful flesh on them, and you can even cook the skin. Get that nice and crispy on the pan and you're in for a good time. One of the many distinctive features of the John Dory is its mouth. It's almost telescopic in a way and can open up to quite a large size, allowing the John Dory to swallow its prey whole by sucking it in through the force of water movement. They can eat quite a surprisingly large bait for their size, and a common method of catching them is live baiting with jack mackerel as a coherer. What you'll see me using in pretty much all my videos is this 110 carbon roller. Pretty much a mishmash of components, but I've put a lot of work into it over the past year, and it's a gun I'm really happy with. A common misconception about roller guns is the time it takes to reload them, but in my personal experience I haven't found this to be the case. Here you can see me reloading my gun. Doesn't take me long at all, just shy of 20 seconds, and that's more than quick enough for most situations, I think. Now, if you can believe it, we got another John Dory here. I spared this one the spare. I'd already shot a couple over this weekend and was pretty happy with the ones I got, so I decided to just film this one. As I'm following along this weed edge, I spot a shape in the distance just on the edge of my visibility, and I lock eyes with a boarfish. I begin slowly, very slowly swimming my way over to it, trying not to spook it, until I can get on top of it and make a nice clean dive. Pretty much the ideal outcome here. I managed to make a nice close shot on this fish, making sure that spear goes right through and more or less immobilize this fish. Boarfish aren't something I shoot a lot of, like I've only ever seen them really a couple of times. But when the opportunity presents itself, I'm of course going to jump at it. This will probably be my last one for the season. They're quite a seasonal fish, mainly here in the summer, and as winter comes they tend to move off. When you shoot fish, it's important to bleed them as well, just to ensure top eating quality and makes the fillets nice and clean. Very nice boarfish specimen right here. The female boarfish actually have stripes along them, as does this one, and male boarfish have very distinctive spots all along their body. Shout out to Ocean Hunter for the Kaiwalkers, these things are brilliant. Here is yet another John Dory, this one not doing such a good job at camouflaging itself. This one is quite white in contrast with the weeds in the background. If it was over rocks it would make sense, but this one's clearly not the brightest Dory. So I'm just going to follow it, get some film, and let Charlie know about it when it gets to the surface so he can decide if he wants to make a dive on this fish. There you can see I'm making his ascent. I'm just following this Dory and then begin mine as well. As I'm ascending, I'm still keeping an eye on this fish because I plan on watching from the surface where this fish goes. The Dory eventually settles down. I keep watching it for a moment just to make sure it's going to stay in that spot, make sure it's nice and relaxed. Hey Charlie, there's a Johnny here if you want it.
You shoot it.
Here we have the same Dory, pretty much right where we left off. Nice and white, nice and contrasting, making an easy shot for Charlie coming down here. John Dory aren't necessarily a dumb fish. They can have a lot of cunning at times and have been outwitted by more than one. But they just have a lot of faith in their camouflage, sometimes a little too much. When you shoot John Dory, they often grunt, as you can hear in this clip, and that can sometimes be a good thing, so they bring kingfish and power, but they can potentially also bring sharks.
I came down to film you.
Bullseye, man.
I've seen some big snappers around
We
here.
eventually found the Marlin frame from yesterday, and I was watching over a bit of it, just watching from the surface, and I noticed the shape slowly moving its way closer. It's really cool when you get to see a certain kind of fish in good numbers. You get to get a really good understanding of how they act when you're not trying to shoot them all the time. You can get a lot closer and really interact with them as opposed to hunting. Here in the same spot you saw the Dory, there's a couple snappers moving in on the Marlin. Snappers are often very flighty fish, but the ones here today were very casual. Here they are just chilling, perfectly comfortable at the end of my spear. I got them lined up and they got no worries at all. So you're probably wondering why I don't shoot, but honestly I've got enough fish. I dived the past 2 days and did really well, so I'm just going to let these ones go. Little trick I like to use sometimes is bringing a teaspoon with me, and I throw this at the surface of the water in front of me. It floats down and can attract fish. I've seen carwais going at it, I've seen kingfish going at it. It works really well, and I recommend trying this. I would also recommend keeping your head down when you go to retrieve it, just for a couple seconds, and it can let the fish get really comfortable. We had a kingfish cruise in, a lot of carwai, even some good trebs in there. This technique works really well and definitely worth a shot. Here we have the Marlin frame, and I decided to test out my gun on it, see what it's got. Kind of in the hypothetical situation of where to see a Marlin like this, would I be able to shoot it on my gun? To my own surprise, the shaft goes clean through, makes it all the way onto the mono. It was a very close shot to be fair, but good performance, and you get that from roller guns. I had chosen to do this at the end of the day because I knew in most likelihood I was going to get my shaft stuck and need to cut it off. I would love to one day see a marlin alive and in the water swimming around. I think that'd be a really cool experience. However, this was interesting, for sure. After trying to pull my shaft out with my hands for a while, I decided to cut the line. Thanks for watching this video. I really appreciate you taking the time to sit through it all and listen to me talking. We got plenty more adventures coming up, so stay tuned. I'll try to pump them out a bit more consistently, been lacking a bit lately. But yeah, get out there and go diving. I'm not going to be a spot X kind of guy. If you can recognize this place, go dive it, it's epic.